C++, JavaScript, and Java. These are three very popular programming languages that have dominated a lot of industries for a very long time. However, they have a few competitors on their heels. Many programmers are switching from C++ to Rust, from JavaScript to Gleam, and from Java to Kotlin. So why is this? Obviously there's a myriad of reasons, but one common trend is that they're all going from imperative or normal programming languages to functional programming languages. And if we have a look at the 2024 Stack Overflow Developer Survey, we can see that this red number, which indicates how desired a language is, shows that Rust and Kotlin were both more desired than their imperative counterparts. So what is functional programming? Functional programming is based on the idea of pure functions. A pure function is any function that, given the same arguments, always returns the same results with no side effects. In simple terms, if you give a function the values a and b, it'll always return x and y, and this will never change. Some of the main traits of functional programming are immutability by default. You can see on the left, we assign a value, and once it's assigned, it cannot be reassigned. Instead, we create a new value. The second major one is first-class functions. This is treating functions as values and allowing them to be easily passed into other functions. This is an example of something similar to something I wrote at work the other day. You can see this replay function takes in the number of times to replay, and then it also takes in another function which returns a boolean. Then it replays the function until it returns true or reaches the maximum number of attempts. Then underneath it you can see I defined a basic function that returns a boolean. And at the very bottom you can see we can pass in the number of replays and this function straight into the replay function and treat the call to external service function just like any other value. Lastly, another very common trait of functional programming is exhaustive when statements to replace if-else statements. Looking at the previous example, we can replace if-else here with a when statement. This makes sure that you cover all situations when handling conditional logic. Let's have a look at a code example. What if we need to write a program to find the sum of the first and last digits in a string? Looking at these examples, in the first one, we have 1 as the first digit in the string and 2 as the last, so we'll sum that up to 3. A regular way in a programming language like C++ or Python is we get a function that takes in a string, and then we define two integers a and b. We do one for loop to find the first number and another to find the last number, then we return the two. In the functional way, to get the first digit a, we call this first method on the string s. You can see that this first method takes in a predicate or a function, which, given a character, returns a boolean. In our case, the character is it. This is the iterator that goes through the string and is essentially like a for loop. And then we apply another function, isDigit. This is making use of the first class functions that I mentioned earlier. The first function is taking in another function, which is finding the first instance where a character inside of the string is a digit. And then once we get the result, we convert that character to an integer using the digit to int function. Then we do the same, but we reverse the initial string to get the second number and return these two. So what are the advantages of functional programming? The main ones are that it's easy to avoid and debug problems. This is because since everything is immutable, the values never change. So once the value is assigned, it's very easy to see in the code what the value should have been at any given time. Secondly, it's easier to understand what's happening. When we call a function, we know that nothing is happening behind the scenes. And when something from an external system has to happen, like a database call, we section this off into its own module, say a repository module, where we know that this is the only place where side effects can be happening. Lastly, it produces more human-readable code, although it might take a bit of getting used to since you're probably taught how to program with languages that are imperative like C++ and Python. But there's a reason more and more modern programming languages are functional in style. Just look at the previous code example. Instead of saying, using a for loop, what values at what index, blah, 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 we can instead say, given a string, I want to find the first value where this condition is true. Thanks for watching.